Hey, Neurofeedback moms. I am Miriam Bellamy. I am the mom who started this group, and I am the director of Whole Family Neurofeedback. This is 2-minute tidbits, and you know the rest. This is a Throwback Thursday version today. We're going to talk about how neurofeedback was discovered. It's going to be a little more than 2 minutes, just a little. All right, so it was actually accidentally discovered at UCLA in the 1960s by a young researcher named Barry Sterman. He was interested in behavior and brainwaves. And so he was running Pavlovian type experiments, remember dog, food, bells, salivating, that kind of thing. But he wanted to know, his subjects was cats, and he wanted to know what was happening in terms of the brain waves while the subjects were learning. And so it got interesting during one variation of his experiments when Sterman, would play a tonal sound where if the cats pressed the little lever in this little room, that the food would not come down while the tonal sound was playing. And so the cats had to learn to wait until the tonal sound stopped, and then they could press a lever and get the food. And so they learned to do this very quickly. But what Sterman noticed that was interesting was their EEG at the time. Their brains were in what's now known, or was known at the time, as an ultra-stable state. So think in terms of an athlete in the zone. Very relaxed, but very focused and ready. Sterman wanted to know next, could the cats produce this ultra-stable brain state at will? And so he altered the experiment where they would be in this little room. When they got their brains into this state, they would get food immediately. And so very quickly, the cats would learn to get themselves into this ultra-stable brain state, and they would get food. Fast forward a few years later, Sterman was approached by NASA because they needed to look at what was happening in terms of EEG brainwaves and rocket fuel exposure. So Sterman took a group of cats, exposed them to rocket fuel, and noted the predictable neurological decline. So there would be this fatigue and weakness, hallucinations, seizures, and then even death. And this was occurring in all but 9 of the cats in his study. And what Sterman realized was these 9 cats were from his previous study. So these were 9 cats who had ultra-stable brains. And it meant that the training that they had undergone was physiological and long-lasting. The first application to humans was to humans dealing with epilepsy because of this higher threshold for seizures. And so in that very first rudimentary study where they would get a green light if they had their brains in this ultra-stable state and a red light if they weren't, there was a 65% reduction in seizures. And for some of the study participants, seizures went away entirely. So that is the beginning of neurofeedback. Thanks for tuning in.